Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And we've got an interesting episode today because we're here to anticipate the upcoming debate that will be in an hour from now on this very YouTube channel or podcast streaming service, if that's where you're consuming this. Yaron Brook, the sort of Christopher Columbus of internet objectivism, is coming to the Ayn Rand Center UK as a reoccurring host of a series called Yaron versus Europe. He's going to be debating a different European intellectual every week. This is a game changer. I'm excited. If you're not an Ayn Rand Center UK member yet, please consider becoming one. You'll get exclusive access to study groups, to content, and you'll help this thing grow. So Jesus Christ, we can pay Yaron, right? I mean, booking intellectuals to debate Yaron is not free, and I imagine Yaron is not free either. We gotta grow this thing and not have to worry about money. So get rid of Ayn Rand Center UK's money problems once and for all. And more money, more problems. You know that. Just come on. Who cares? Just give us some money. No, become a member. Enough with my opening monologue. And also, please super chat us if you have something to add or want to show support. Let's welcome a guy who's going to help me discuss the upcoming debate: Marxism versus capitalism, coming up at the bottom of the hour. Why is this important? What do we expect will happen? Who are the speakers? Let's find out. Let's welcome a man all the way from the birthplace of debate or dialectic. It's Nikos Sotirakopoulos.
Thank you, Rucka. So there was a lot of hype 2 years ago on the Jordan Peterson Slavoj Žižek debate on communism versus capitalism. What is the system that brings happiness? And those who watched the debate, they were very disappointed because obviously Jordan Peterson couldn't defend capitalism. Žižek didn't really defend communism. So the whole point was, well, this hype was for nothing. So today, hopefully, we're going to do justice to this discussion. We're going to do justice to this debate. But we don't have someone who is a Marxist in the way that most people today use the term, which is, oh, I want some progressive taxation. The rich are way too rich. We are destroying the environment. We have someone, Ashley, who claims to be, and actually is a Marxist, who believes in economic progress, who believes in freedom of speech, who believes in all that stuff. But she claims that the system which is to deliver these things is not capitalism. That capitalism has played actually a progressive role in history, but there's something else beyond capitalism which is going to deliver the goods. Now, why is this discussion important? I think the discussion is super important, first of all, because it was the discussion through which I changed my mind about Marxism. So what I found fascinating in Marxism, and what many people find fascinating in Marxism, is actually this vision that it promises, this vision that it's going to be that everything before communism is going to be the prehistory of humanity. That after communism is going to be unbelievable. I was reading today something from the records of the Congress of the Communist Party of Soviet Union in 1934. And there's a guy who said, well, in 50 years, when we're going to have our conference in the interplanetary Soviet republics of, and he mentioned some space. So that was the very exciting vision of the left that the left had, and of course is not there anymore. So, but there are still many leftists who believe this, who believe that actually, if you're pro-progress, you have to be against capitalism. So I'm very excited to see one of the best of that milieu facing Yaron. Now, I have a prediction on who is going to win, but I will keep this for, I'm the chair, so I have to be, no, but actually I think it's important to give my prediction and explain my prediction, but I'll throw the ball back to you and then we can discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, is the mic, you hear me okay, by the way? I adjusted the microphone level.
We can hear you fine, yeah.
Good. I remember hearing about Jordan Peterson debating anyone, and he's representing capitalism. Obviously, he's no capitalist from where I'm standing, but I could imagine someone far to the left of him pushing his boundaries. But of course, they're going to agree on the fundamentals. They're going to agree that, engineering a desirable society is sort of how to approach these things. rather than Jordan Peterson saying, as I would like him to say, I, Jordan, am selfish. I want to live a great life. And the system that allows me to do so without any interference is capitalism. Now, that's not exactly going to win over every crowd, but that is ultimately the argument for capitalism. And the way to win the crowd over is to inspire them similarly by reaching for their values. I'm curious to see how Yaron will go about this. Obviously, we've seen him debate many times. It'll be interesting to see. Thank you, Ron W, for the $19.99. He says donation towards the debate. All right, sounds good.
By the way, let me say something about the logistics of the debate. So I'll be chairing it, and people will be able to ask questions via super chats. So the Lord Emperor behind the scenes, who, by the way, is, that's the phrase he's using, is he's killing it, because today he's featured in Spiked Online on an article that he has. So he will be monitoring the chat, and I will. So the format is 10 minutes introduction by each side. Then hopefully we're going to have inter-panel dialogue. Hopefully there's going to be things that there's there. And the second part is going to be super chat questions. So if you have a question, you put it on the super chat and you can participate in that discussion. Now, let me tell you how I view these debates, and you tell me if this is a deterministic or a rationalistic way to view it. So I think that no matter how good the debater is from the Marxist side, I think most of the times Yaron will win, not just because he's a good debater, but I think about it in a way like, for those of you who know the first UFC tournament. So what happened in UFC is you'd have a very good karate fighter, a very good boxer. So you had the best from each discipline. And in a way, if you have the best from each discipline, it comes down to which is the best discipline. So surprisingly to most people, but unsurprisingly to those who knew, in the first UFCs, it was the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy who won, although he wasn't anything spectacular in terms of, and everyone was surprised. It was like, oh, but this guy is huge, and how did the small guy win the huge guy? So I think when you talk about issues such as human progress and freedom, objectivism is the superior system, so to speak, to use the martial art category. So because it gives you a better understanding. So I cannot see how it's going to be easy for a Marxist to say, for example, I stand for freedom, but at the same time, for example, class consciousness is something that's going to give you a better understanding of reality. Or I believe in individual rights, but at the same time, you don't have a full right to property. Or I believe to the sanctity of that your life is your highest value, but at the same time, give something away whether you want or not. So that's why I say it's, in a way, the discussion, I think, is skewed already towards the objective side. Of course, you can have someone who's a great debater and use tricks, but I think at the essence, I'm very curious to see what a good Marxist could bring on the table that actually is going to make a more persuading case that, look, if you want freedom and progress, come with us and forget capitalism.
Yeah, I was trying to research what she's about earlier before this episode here today. And there's some confusion in the chat room, people thinking this is the debate. And I know the title of this episode rather, makes it look like this is the debate. And that's, an interesting predicament we're in.
What's the title of the discussion? The
title is like Capitalism versus Marxism debate preview. Like you have to read it all the way till the end.
Well, it's preview. 4 words. It doesn't need such a big attention.
I mean, good luck with that in today's climate. Anyway, the actual debate is coming up after this live stream, coming up at the bottom of the hour. Right?
7 o'clock UK time.
That's right. So I was looking up Ashley, is it? Ashley Frawley.
Yeah.
She talks about ways to sort of get the masses of people to sort of come on board in pursuing their own class interest and dismantling capitalism. I think the impression I get is that she's a very modern version of Marxist, and maybe not even a Marxist anymore by the purest sense. In that, I mean, you know more than I do, and a lot of people probably know more than you do about what that is. But she's like a lot of progressives. I kind of perceive what she's saying as like she's a progressive, and she wants to both help the poor as well as kind of adjust the way they look at things so that they can get on board with peacefully probably bringing about the changes that we want to bring, which is to end capitalism and have a more democratic system. And a question that comes up is about self-esteem versus material goods. So like, do we first give poor people material to live on? Like, do we first give them money, or do we first try to boost their self-esteem so that they then can get on board and fight, you know, through the political process to improve their own financial state or their own material state? So that's kind of the question surrounding the question.
And to clarify something on this, and her answer is not, quote, self-esteem. So she's very much against what we'd call therapy culture. She's very much against everyone is a winner. She's very much against snowflaker and all that stuff. So that's the interesting thing. You have two people who mostly agree on what is wrong in today's culture, but they have radically different understandings of what the solution should be and what is the role of capitalism. So she will say probably that it's capitalism that has created this culture. So again, notice the difference here in the philosophies. For the Marxist, in a way, the material conditions play a role on how you view yourself and you view the world. Whereas for the objectivist, when you believe in free will and the independence of the mind, it's up to you to make up your mind. So no matter what the means of production around you are, they do not condition, influence, or determine your mind, because there are many Marxists who start from influence and end up to determine.
Yeah, they see capitalism as just a system of exploitation of a handful of people exploiting other people. But in reality, what brought about the Industrial Revolution and the capitalism, to the extent we've had it in the world, is, in my view, a sort of a trend of real self-esteem. That is, individuals saw themselves as efficacious, and this probably comes from philosophy. You know, nature to be commanded must be obeyed, and things like that. So, and you know, man has rights. As imperfect as that grasp of rights was, it definitely, I think, brought about a system of political freedom and respect for science. And so actual capitalism is a consequence of actual self-esteem. Now, the self-esteem movement, quote unquote, is a movement of telling little kids, you're great, here's self-esteem to get you started, and then now go out and live. But the actual thing is, you should tell kids in whatever language they can understand, is self-esteem can be earned. Or even on a baser level, ask them, like, what do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be now? What do you want to do? And teach them how to think critically, teach them how to build stuff at whatever capacity they're currently at, build, produce, write, create. And so people with actual self-esteem, people with an actual sense of efficaciousness, those people thrive most in a capitalist system. They don't want anything for free, and they also don't want to give away anything against their own judgment. So she's right to reject the, you know, quote, self-esteem, since she wants to dismantle capitalism. But what she's pushing away is sort of a package dealing of actual self-esteem, but also like a bastardization of it. But she is right. If what she wants is to dismantle capitalism, then in that sense, she is right to reject self-esteem, isn't she?
And one of the other major points in that I'm looking forward to see how they're gonna discuss it. So if you watch that episode where I talk about my transition from Marxism to objectivism, I mentioned how Ashley played a very central role in it because we were studying together at Kent. So, and it's this criticism of this ridiculous idea that unfortunately has become so popular that, quote, money doesn't bring you happiness. And we have seen this becoming part now even of big corporations, of big institutions and organizations like the United States. You had even countries like, I think it was Bhutan, who said, we're not gonna anymore measure GDP. We're going to measure well-being GDP. Now, again, there is a way where you can say, well, yes, of course, money is not the main aim. And you can read Francisco's talk in Atlas Shrugged where he discusses this thing. But at the same time, there's something very, very suspicious in this narrative, because basically this narrative says it's a way to say we're going to take decisions for you. So, for example, don't take the plane and fly and increase your carbon footprint because A, this is bad for the environment, so we're going to take it away from you, but at the same time, it doesn't make you happy. That would be our criticism. The Marxist criticism is that capitalism cannot bring prosperity. Therefore, capitalism is patting you on the back and saying, "Oh, be happy that you're poor." So again, you have one phenomenon and two ways of understanding it. And I think the root of the issue here is that the Marxists cannot understand what capitalism is. They see, for example, the World Bank, and they say, "Oh, this is neoliberalism and this is capitalism." Whereas they don't understand, this is the bastard kid of the mixed economy. This is the Frankenstein. No, Frankenstein was not the creation, was a doctor. This is the creation of the Frankenstein, which has been the mixed economy. A system where it has all the dynamism and all the historically progressive role of capitalism stripped out of it, and you just have central planners trying to centrally plan the economy in a, quote, efficient way according to their agenda.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jeff, for the $10 Canadian. Says the withering away of the state never comes to fruition. Well, that's right. They try to, the communists try to induce the process, like you would induce the birth of a pregnant, 9-month pregnant woman or whatever stage she's at. You induce it. So they try to induce the process. The communists do. They slam industrialization onto a certain region, and then they try to slam a proletariat revolution onto that region as well.
Though, to be honest, that was the only historically good, potentially good period when it came to Marxism, that period where it had this vision for industrializing the developing world. But A, did not last long. B, there wasn't much industrialization taking place. So there's a lot of discussion, for example, even in Soviet Union, whether the 5-year plans of Stalin, which costed millions of lives with the forced collectivization of the farmlands, whether this industrialization would come faster even under the parochial Tsarist regime, or whether the forced collectivization of Stalin made it faster. So even this point where some Marxists say, but okay, yeah, we take the L when it comes to, yeah, some millions die, but at least look the economic miracle. And of course, the question is, why wouldn't this economic miracle happen without the central planning?
Yeah, and well, of course, I mean, between Tsarism, whatever you'd call it, feudalism versus communism, I don't know which one is more efficient. I just know they're both impossible to live under. So capitalism is the proper alternative to root for. And look, even if Stalin was successful at modernizing a region, I mean, putting aside the fact that the technology and the knowledge that he was able to use came from free countries, what did not happen was then a spontaneous uprising of proletariats to overthrow the ruling class. Like, that type of collective consciousness doesn't exist. And anytime you see a communist revolution, it's forced on people that don't even know what the hell's going on usually. So, I mean, yeah, anyway, if you're joining us now, by the way, this is a preview of the debate. You might, we have a high viewership, probably because of the title. It's a sexy title, isn't it? People think,
it's the pre-game show.
Yeah, it's a pre-game. So you see us getting along so well. Oh, believe me, it's going to get bloody later on. Please set a reminder here on this channel. Check out the video. Link below, I think. And that's coming up at the bottom of this hour. But yeah, I mean, what inspired me to switch over from sort of a hodgepodge of leftism, which is a very American position to be in, which is what I was in as in my teens, early, up till around 15, 16. I mean, what changed my mind was reading The Fountainhead. And even though that book is not about capitalism, and it only mention of politics, I guess, is Rourke saying he disapproves of the welfare state, the welfare system. But that book inspired me in a way that it shows a character that wants to be an architect and is willing to face social adversity, even though it's voluntary social adversity, they're mostly not using force against him. It's mostly social pressure, but he's still he's committed to his own view of what a building should look like, what a house should look like in his view as an artist, as an architect. And the sort of outgrowth of that view, to me, and Ayn Rand certainly presents that in Atlas Shrugged, is that type of person, like Howard Roark, should be free to do so. It's his life. It's all he's asking is to be allowed to follow his judgment, and that's what capitalism facilitates. It allows. It does not interfere with. Capitalism is the absence of force, other than retaliatory.
And that's exactly where the problem lies. You could show to a progressive the way we use it, Marxist, the Fountainhead, they would like it because maybe they have a good sense of life, but the wrong politics. But then when you ask them this question that you mentioned, so should Howard Roark be free and uncoerced to pursue his values? They would say, or they will say, one day he will be. But that can't be under capitalism. And then when you ask why, then it becomes... So what we're trying to do here is we try to find what are the best possible takes that a Marxist can have and see how we can, in a way, how these questions can be solved outside of the Marxian frame. So we're doing the opposite of straw manning. We're not taking... So in a way, we try to a lot of people commenting on the 1984 debate, they said the socialists were a caricature. They were not good. They were not heavyweight enough for Dr. Peikoff and Dr. Riedpath. And of course, maybe even Marx and Lenin wouldn't be able to hold a good discussion against two very good objectivists. But there are better arguments in the Marxian milieu than these two socialists that appeared in that debate, or than the 99% of socialists that you saw on Twitter. So we want to see, okay, how will these arguments stand against an objectivist heavyweight? Next week, the topic will be tradition. And we're going to bring you, Razi, are we allowed to say it?
He wants us to. He put it in the chat room. Go ahead.
Okay. So next week, we're bringing you Zubi. You probably know Zubi from Twitter. You probably know him from breaking the women's world record in deadlifting, where he tried to make a case about sports and gender. But there's more to the guy than that controversy. He's a very interesting person in terms of self-development, in terms of cultural criticism of the things that are bad. But at the same time, let's see how he fares against Yaron on the topic of tradition, which is also a topic where I'm not sure I'm so much on team Razi, as I have to think about it. So, for example, I didn't like the title. Say, tradition, good or bad? Aren't there good traditions? And then Razi said, if it's a good, then it's not a tradition. It's a practice that you do it because it's good. Anyway, as a Greek tribalist, I'll have to think where I stand in this discussion.
I mean, the Ayn Rand Center UK, we love it. It can be a little bit on the clickbait side at times, or it's a little bit of more of a tabloid style channel, as opposed to something like the Ayn Rand Institute, which is much more serious and sober.
Because also it's different missions, right? So, and again, for people, we need to clarify this. Our mission is not to maintain the thought and the legacy of Ayn Rand, which is the mission of the Ayn Rand Institute. We see ourselves more as being at the beginning of the funnel, where we bring people in and then they can go to the great teachers that ARI has, which have been also our teachers in objectivism. So that's why, yes, you can see us having these discussions that would be difficult to have in a different frame.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so Zubi has been on this show, by the way. I was on that episode, and I think you were too.
Yes, it was one of our first 10 episodes or something.
Yeah.
And the topic was the silent majority.
That's right. And I remember saying on that episode, when Zubi was saying, maybe we have enough individualism. Maybe we need to be encouraging more family values and stuff like that. Because in his eyes and many people's eyes, the social justice subjectivists, the 78 genders people, the people who demand that the world cater to their emotions. Those people are individualists, the way most people interpret it. So I answered him, I remember saying, I'm going to borrow a phrase from the communists, and I'm going to say, that was not real individualism.
That's true.
The real individualists were the founding fathers. I'm sensing you need to end the episode and go prepare for the debate. Is that right?
Yes. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So again, people can join us in 35 minutes. And I think till then you're gonna hang out a bit on Clubhouse. Am I right?
I'm gonna be alone on Clubhouse. If anyone wants to join me on stage, I could absolutely use your intercourse. By the way, speaking of which, we have a couple super chats. We got Marialine, thank you for that. George Grigopoulos with some pounds says, "This is not the debate. This is foreplay," which he attributes that to Maria saying it's her comment, not his own. So a closing thought, on the topic of how to spread capitalism or how to debate in favor of capitalism, when we can get the Zubies of the world, when we get those types of people to associate their own values, their own love of life, their own drive with real individualism, with capitalism, then the battle is won. If people with that type of energy and that type of dedication to their own values learn to associate that with a philosophy for living on Earth, then I'm very confident about the future of this very, very chaotic world.
And my joke with Ashley usually is, at some point we get rid of everything else and it's us versus you in the final battle on the fate of history. But that's going to be a better day, because I'd rather have someone who's pro-progress and pro-human agency, although they misunderstand them, rather than having people who explicitly say these things are bad and we need to go back and humans are not to be trusted.
There's a lot to get into of which evil is better or less evil, or which insufficient philosophy is better or worse. There's a lot we can get into, but I don't think we have the time now, obviously. Thank you, Kiana, for the super chat as well. Thank you all for the super chats, and please become an Ayn Rand Center UK member. I mean, this upcoming debate we've got here, it's not free, and we'd love to bring you more stuff just like it. So please become an Ayn Rand Center UK member. Select a real nice tier level for all types of great perks. Thank you.
Having said that, on for the purpose of justice, obviously the debate is also sponsored and sanctioned morally and materially also by the Ayn Rand Institute. So many thanks to ARI as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that aspect of it, because I don't actually run ARC UK. I'm what they call talent. I show up, I speak, and I go home, or I stay home. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you again for the super chats and for the comments as well. Please leave a like on the video. Please leave a comment on the video, guys. Seriously, it's good. It's good for the community. It's good for the economy. And be a good capitalist. Leave us an actual video comment. Leave us a like. Jump over to Clubhouse now in 1 minute. I'll be hosting solo. And when I'm in charge, it's party time. See you guys there. And don't forget, in 30 minutes from right now, the debate to end all debates, or to start the debates. Yaron Brook versus
Ashley
Frawley. See you there, and goodbye.